Today is April 21st, 2025. This is Read Through the Bible.
Hi, everyone.
And we're recording this Sunday night, and I was super encouraged by what happened at church on Sunday morning.
Yeah, I was too.
Yeah, I started my sermon. It was Easter morning, so I said, He is risen, and everyone said,
He is risen indeed.
And then I said, but if you listen to the podcast, this morning it was Psalm 32, and we repeated this phrase, He is risen.
We're forgiven.
We are forgiven. And a lot of people in the congregation knew that from having listened to the podcast that way. So kudos to all you guys. It's super encouraging for us that you're listening on a daily basis. Okay, so this week we're going to finish Leviticus. And so if you stayed with us, we've kind of dragged you along and helped you through. Again, the key is not to sweat the small stuff. Today we are looking at chapter 23 alone, which contains the feasts of the Lord, right? Is how it begins in verse 2. These are the appointed feasts of the Lord. It's how the very last verse ended. These are the appointed feasts of the Lord. Right.
And so remember, we're in the downhill section of Leviticus about how to live for God.
Yeah.
So we had the Day of Atonement, chapter 16 was the center, and then now we're coming down, and we've had purity chapters, and then priests.
And now it's just not so clear.
It's kind of feasts, but it's kind of just wrapping it all up.
Yeah, a lot of things. But today we get the feasts.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and look at the feasts. 3 words: rest, remembrance, and joy is what these feasts are about.
I found that really helpful.
Yeah, rest, remembrance, and joy.
Yeah. And also the feasts are listed in chapter 23 according to the order they've come in the calendar year. So there's spring feasts and fall feasts, 3 of each.
Okay, so we start with the spring after the Sabbath. We talk about the spring feast.
Right. Yeah.
So
Sabbath.
Here we go. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the people of Israel and say to them, These are the appointed feasts of the Lord, that you may proclaim as holy. That you shall proclaim as holy convocations. They are my appointed feasts."
Okay. Verse 3, 6 days shall work be done, but on the 7th day is a Sabbath of solemn rest, a holy convocation. You shall do no work. It is a Sabbath to the Lord in all your dwelling places. So there's rest.
Yep. And then the Passover, this is spring feast. This is about remembrance. These are the appointed feasts of the Lord, the holy convocations, which you shall proclaim at the time appointed for them. In the first month, and their calendar started in the spring, about our Easter time. So yesterday would have been the Passover, the first month. It's the Passover is the first month, 15th day. But here it says, in the first month, on the 14th day of the month at twilight, it is the Lord's Passover. And on the 15th day of the same month, it's the Feast of Unleavened Bread to the Lord. For 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. On the first day you shall have a holy convocation. You shall not do any ordinary work, but you shall present a food offering to the Lord for 7 days. On the 7th day is a holy convocation. You shall not do any ordinary work.
Verse 9, and the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the people of Israel, and say to them, When you come into the land that I give you, and reap its harvest, you shall bring the sheaf of the firstfruits of your harvest to the priest, and he shall wave the sheaf before the Lord, so that you may be accepted. On the day after the Sabbath, the priest shall wave it. And on the day when you wave the sheaf, you shall offer a male lamb, a year old, without blemish, as a burnt offering to the Lord. And the grain offering with it shall be 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour, mixed with oil, a food offering to the Lord with a pleasing aroma. And the drink offering with it shall be of wine, 1/4 of a hin. And you shall eat neither bread nor grain, parched or fresh, until this same day, until you have brought the offering of your God. It is a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings.
Yep, so these are remembrance. The Passover is remembering just the whole exodus from Egypt, the first fruits, you're just remembering God and His provision. And again, the Feast of Weeks, you shall count 7 full weeks from the day after the Sabbath. 7 weeks is 49. The 5th day, the next day is 50. That's Pentecost is what we're talking about here. From the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, you shall count 50 days, Pentecost, to the day after the 7th Sabbath. You shall present a grain offering of new grain to the Lord. You shall bring from your dwelling places 2 loaves of bread to be waved, made of 2/10 of an ephah, and they shall be of fine flour, and they shall be baked with leaven as firstfruits to the Lord. And you shall present with the bread 7 lambs a year old without blemish, and 1 bull from the herd, and 2 rams. And they shall be a burnt offering to the Lord, with their grain offering and their drink offerings, a food offering with a pleasing aroma to the Lord. And you shall offer 1 male goat for a sin offering, and 2 male lambs, a year old, as a sacrifice of peace offerings. And the priest shall wave them with the bread of the first fruits of the wave offering before the Lord with the 2 lambs. They shall be holy to the Lord for the priest, and you shall make a proclamation on the same day. You shall hold a holy convocation. You shall not do any ordinary work. It is a statute forever in all your dwelling places throughout your generations.
And when you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not reap your field right up to its edge, nor shall you gather the gleanings after your harvest. You shall leave them for the poor and for the sojourner. I am the Lord your God.
Okay, so we're transitioning here now to the fall. And when you reap, you should do this. And this is like in the book of Ruth, when Ruth was gleaning from the fields. But then again, we have another fall feast.
Yep.
Verse 23. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the people of Israel, saying, In the 7th month, on the first day of the month, that's the 7th month, that's in the fall, you shall observe a day of solemn rest, a memorial proclaimed with a blast of trumpets, a holy convocation. So there's remembrance, right? And then verse 25, you shall not do any ordinary work. There's rest. And you shall present a food offering to the Lord.
Okay.
Rest and remembrance. And these also are just like filled with joy. I mean, God is one who wants the joy of his people by giving these days off, by celebrating all that the Lord has done.
Well, and a feast, I think, implies
Yes, it
celebration.
does. Yeah.
And so that one, verse 24, talks about the blast of trumpets. I think this one is called the Feast of Trumpets.
Yep.
Right? Not really clearly here, but I think
Yep.
that's what it's called.
Yep.
Okay, verse 26. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Now on the 10th day of the 7th month is the Day of Atonement.
And we've chapter 16, ding, ding. Like you think Leviticus, think chapter 16. That is like the high point in the book of Leviticus. Yep.
Okay, it shall be for you a time of holy convocation, and you shall afflict yourselves and present a food offering to the Lord. And you shall not do any work on that day, for it is a day of atonement, to make atonement for you before the Lord your God. For whoever is not afflicted on that very day shall be cut off from his people. And whoever does any work on that very day, that person I will destroy from among his people. You shall not do any work. It is a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwelling places. It shall be to you a Sabbath of solemn rest, and you shall afflict yourselves. On the 9th day of the month, beginning at evening, from evening to evening, shall you keep your Sabbath.
Yeah, and so when he's talking about these feasts, when the writer of Leviticus, Moses, is talking about the feasts, he's not giving you all the details. Like he didn't go into the whole detail of the Passover, nor the Day of Atonement. These are given elsewhere, but they're just kind of, this is a calendar of events in chapter 23. Verse 33, And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the people of Israel, saying, On the 15th day of the 7th month, and for 7 days, is a feast of booths to the Lord. And so when they get their holidays, these are like week-long holidays, often. It's like every week's a holiday week almost. But it always starts on the Sabbath, goes 7 days, ends on the Sabbath. So like 8-day holidays when they have them.
Wow.
On the first day there shall be a holy convocation. You shall not do any ordinary work. For 7 days you shall present food offerings to the Lord. On the 8th day you shall hold a holy convocation and present a food offering to the Lord. It is a solemn assembly. You shall not do any ordinary work.
These are the appointed feasts of the Lord. There's that phrase again.
Yeah,
These
often.
are the appointed feasts of the Lord, which you shall proclaim as times of holy convocation for presenting to the Lord food offerings, burnt offerings, and grain offerings, sacrifices and drink offerings, each on its proper day. Besides the Lord's Sabbaths, and besides your gifts, and besides all your vow offerings, and besides all your freewill offerings, which you give to the Lord.
On the 15th day of the 7th month, when you have gathered in the produce of the land, you shall celebrate the feast of the Lord 7 days. On the first day shall be a solemn rest, and on the 8th day shall be a solemn rest. And you shall take on the first day the fruit of splendid trees. It's like splendid trees. What are those? It's not an orange tree or an apple. It's like the splendid trees. Branches of palm trees and boughs of leafy trees and willows of the brook. And here it is. You shall rejoice before the Lord your God 7 days. Rest, remembrance, and joy. God wants our joy. He wants us to party. He wants us to enjoy life. You shall celebrate as a feast to the Lord for 7 days in the year. It's a statute forever throughout your generations. You shall celebrate it in the 7th month. You shall dwell in booths for 7 days. All native Israelites shall dwell in booths, that your generations may know that I made the people of Israel dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God.
So I think that those splendid trees and the branches and the palm boughs, I think those are to make their tents.
Okay.
That they're going to use as celebrations and remembrances.
And remember that they were sojourners. They dwelt in tents.
Right. In the land of Egypt. Or coming out. Okay, so verse 44. Thus Moses declared to the people of Israel the appointed feasts of the Lord.
Yeah, the appointed feast of the Lord appears many times here. I'm just counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times maybe.
Yeah.
4 times for sure. And so, like, if you're looking for a good summary of chapter 23, the appointed feasts of the Lord, if you want to try to, put some of these down as remembrance, you can just higher level. These are spring feasts and fall feasts. Lower level, we're talking Passover, Feast of First Fruits, Feast of Weeks, Feast of Trumpets, Day of Atonement, Feast of Booths. Like, those are just the ESV headings. You can do whatever you want. I just say, don't sweat the small stuff. The appointed feasts come in chapter 23. God wants us to enjoy rest remembrance,
and joy.
All right, we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
All right, goodbye.